awful lot of cloud cover around, and there is some drizzly rain popping up here and there. Hopefully as the day goes on we'll see less of that and the cloud cover will thin out a little bit, but I think the main theme is it's a predominantly cloudy one, but it's still very warm. Top temperature 24 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
I feel like a failure. I do, honey. I feel like I've failed in my endeavour. Yeah. Well, I've been here 21 years in September, and the BBC's never got fined a bean because of me. They've got fined because of all these people who are dead clever and have been on all the courses, but for me, nothing. Never a cent. All them complaints that people send in, and I don't know why they do, but they're pointless. People complain, Beswick said this, Beswick said that. Well, I'm sorry, but frankly, we've never been fined. Never been done for libel. I'm not encouraging it, but I feel like my life has been in vain. I don't know why I've bothered. 22 years sitting here, nothing of any material has happened. That comic relief, 400,000 quid. God alone knows what it would have been if it was hand relief. 400,000 quid. Comic relief. Children in need. They're not as needy now. There. Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. Anyway, we're having a competition. It's one of them premium lines. And it'll cost you £5 a minute to take part. And just so we don't get any more trouble, you'll win sod all. You just phone. Actually, it's 07786206951. You ring that number. It costs you a £5, and it all goes to the fine. That's what we're doing. Yeah. No, we're not really, obviously. I don't want to get in any trouble. Well, I don't mind. It doesn't seem to cost out. A couple of stamps writing back saying, well, and what about Andy Cole? Fancy suing the Daily Star for libel and winning. That's balmy. Nobody believes a word they read in the Star. Everybody knows it's a lying comic. So why bother suing them? You know, if it had been in a proper paper and not the Star, then people might have said, "Oh, blimey, have you read that in the paper? Andy Cole beat his wife up." Blimey, did he? Good Lord. You know, if it had been in a proper paper, but front page of the Star, Andy Cole beats his wife, well, isn't that much the same as there's been a Wellington bomber found on the moon? No one believes a word of it. I don't think he should have won. I think the judge should have said, "Oh, come on, you daft beggar. It was in the Star. Don't be silly." It's just a thought. Anyway, yeah, that's how the mind works. If you've had a thought and you're not too ashamed of it, because there's a few I've had that I'm ashamed of. There you go. 0161 228 2255 and Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk and you see I did and you can text 07786 206 951. We keep it easy because I wouldn't understand it otherwise, obviously. I got an email from David, and thank you for that. I got a bit confused. All religions, aren't these like old wives' tales, which were meant for the best of reasons? Or are we not at a point in time to realise that the only thing is truth, and we as human beings should try to do what is right for the whole of humanity? Hope you had a good holiday, says David. Well, I did. But it's not helped by coming back and getting emails that ask such huge questions. But you're not alone in asking that question. The chief rabbi, is his name Andrew Sachs? Or was he the actor in Fawlty Towers? I mix them up. They don't look alike, but I still mix them up. Anyway, but the chief rabbi reckons that the reason we are in the dire straits we are in, so he's already conceded that we're in dire straits, and he doesn't mean the band, but the reason we are in the dire straits that we are in is because of a lack of religion. We as a society have moved away from God bothering. Chief Rabbi, quote, "Loss of faith is the root of our ills. The root cause of Britain's broken society is the loss of religion," the chief rabbi said yesterday. Sir Jonathan Sachs, oh, it was him, you see, No, Andrew Sachs was the other one. Sir Jonathan Sachs pointed to the collapse of faith as the key factor behind the failure of relationships, the weakness of marriage, and the fragmentation of communities. He said declining religious belief has led to a spread of depression, stress, eating disorders, and drug and alcohol abuse. In a speech to the bishops of the Worldwide Anglican Communion meeting in Lambeth Conference, Sir Jonathan appealed for Christians, Jews and people of other faiths, because he's not allowed to say the word Muslim, as all hell lets loose. People of other faiths is how he gets around that. Well done him. Sir Jonathan is the first Orthodox Jewish leader to be invited to speak at the conference, which is staged once every decade. So there you are. He says people of all faiths should work together. But it's the people of no faith that are doing the harm.
John Thompson in a world of his own.
These were the original hoodies, were monks, you see. Meadlouts. They were banned from wearing their hoodies. Hoodless habits. So it'd be like a casual monk.
Right.
Sports cars monk. You know, cap sleeve, maybe a bit of a Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen of the monk era. That's my theory. That's what it was. It's habitual. Do you get it?
John Thompson.
My granddad used to have one of those things. A little Swiss cottage. A lady would come out with a basket of flowers, and a man would come out with a bowler hat and a brolly.
Yeah.
Well, they're working overtime at the moment.
John Thompson's take on the world.
What is the world coming to?
Saturday from 11 on BBC Radio Manchester.
Ah, yeah. All right. Good. Big announcement yesterday. £51 million bypass around Alderley Edge. Apparently too many rich people are having too many cars go past their house. So they're having a big bypass built. It's going to cost the taxpayer, you, me, and anyone who knows me, 51 million quid. Jeff in Timperley said, I've just heard on the news that the government has passed plans for a £51 million bypass round Alderley Edge. Does this mean a congestion charge for Wilmslow and Macclesfield? Very good. We like people who think sideways. Yeah, we don't like people who walk sideways because they're obviously crabby. Yeah, walk sideways, crabby. Oh, never mind. Anyway, but we like that. So that's a bit of lateral thinking, you see, and it's to be complimented. Indeed, it just was complimented. That's all he's getting. There's no more of that, none at all. And I got an email, and I've forgotten who from, and I pressed the wrong button, and it's deleted. That does happen from time to time. But the email said, now that we've all stopped laughing at the fact that you got burgled in your holiday place, can you give us any advice on how to deal with the police and the like? Or do you report it to reception? Well, we didn't have a reception because we rented a house off a bloke who we didn't know. We found him on the internet. He seemed a nice enough fella. And we rented an house off a bloke. And the only sort of assistance we got when we were there was the bloke, Big Ron from down south. Well, he was living in the south of France, but he's Big Ron from Essex. And Big Ron met us with the keys and said, there you are, mate, here, go blimey, and all that caper. And told us what to do and all the rest of it. So that was fine. It was good, no problem at all. When we got burgled, we rang Big Ron and said, hey, Big Ron, we've been burgled. And he said, all right, well, I'll get the local bobbies round. And the gendarmerie came, and quite rightly, they couldn't speak a word of English. And our French, well, mine's almost non-existent, and my wife's is pretty damn good, but you don't get a lot of call for conversations about burglary when you're learning French, do you? Really? Anyway, we got through it all. And all they did, and they were, I'm told, I've never been burgled in the UK, but I'm told it's much the same there. They were there within a couple of hours. So that's not bad. That beats the British police into a cocked hat. 3 of them came, and they all had a gun each. So that was nice. They all had a handgun. It is a bit disturbing. And they gave us a form, and they said, fill that in. Well, they didn't. I've just made that up. They waved it at us and spoke some words I didn't understand, but my wife says, we've got to fill this form in, so that was good enough for me. And then we had to take it to the police station, the barracks of the gendarmerie. And they just wrote a number on it, stamped it, and give us back. That was the sum total of their investigation. And the bank's been fantastic. We cancelled all the cards and all that. We then were without money and without cards, so we had the joy of getting money sent from an English bank to an American bank, so that the American bank could give it to Western Union, so that Western Union could then give it to a post office in France. Extraordinary course of events, but there you are. So we went and we got cash. And we had to carry a big wadge of cash, a whole fortnight's money in cash. Not a clever way, but that was fine. And my cards have been stopped and everything. And I got my bank statement today, and there are 3 transactions on my bank statement, all of which are stolen. And because the cards are all chip and pin now, the schmuck that nicked it in the south of France can't use it. Because if he presents it, they'll ask him for his PIN number. In fact, the French were the very first to have PINs. They had it 20 years before we did. But anyway, there is one place where he can use it, and that is to pay his motorway toll, because they don't ask for your PIN number. So I've had £9.53 stolen off me so far because of this bastard's going up and down the motorway using my card, the dirty, slimy frog. So, not that I'm a bitter man. Anyway, the bank said I can have my £9.53 back. Well, that's the only place you can use it. I hope he's not going on his holidays anywhere far, dear God.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan
Well,
BBC Radio Manchester.
apparently worse things happen at sea. 0161 228 2255. Ken in Ratcliffe, how are you doing, Ken?
All right, Alan. Nice talking to you again.
And you, sir?
I'm not sir. I'm nothing.
All right. There's a lot of us about. Go on.
You made a comment at the start of your programme about some Jewish...
The chief rabbi.
Chief rabbi.
Yeah.
That's it.
He says that the loss of faith in our society is at the root of all our ills.
Well, I think that's a bit rich, now, because weren't it the Jewish people who decided to and fought to have Jesus nailed up to the cross? Do you think that's a bit rich?
Well, I mean, I suppose, yes, but Jesus was Jewish anyway, so,
Well, yeah.
So they were nailing up one of them. And it was a form of capital punishment, but it was 2,000 years ago. That I think
Oh,
the
I
chief...
don't remember it.
No, I don't remember it either, but the chief rabbi was talking rather more about now.
Well, well, what do you mean about now? I mean, everything's gone to pot for years, as you know.
Well, yes,
point
but well, go on.
Point is, how the hell can these people talk about law and order through religion when they nailed Jesus up? I mean, by the way, I don't believe in any of this God stuff. I look out at night, if it's not clouding, I see all them stars, suns, planets, and I think, no, it didn't make all them. It's a load of garbage. But that's my view, and that's all I want to say is...
Well, okay. Well, let me just ask you a couple of questions, because you made the point that our society, if you like, has been going to the non-existent hell in a handcart for some decades.
Oh, I without a doubt.
Well, if you believe that, and it's a perfectly rational belief, we can't escape the fact that what has happened simultaneously and at much the same rate is fewer and fewer people have gone to their particular religious building, if you like. Fewer people go to church, fewer people go to synagogue, and apart from just a couple of years recently, fewer people go to the mosque. So religion is diminishing in society at exactly the same time, and possibly by the same proportions, that society breaks down. He might have a point, mightn't he?
Well, no, I don't think he has a point. My view is, why is it all these church leaders, whatever religion they are, they always have these services after the event, earthquakes, famine and everything else. And
Well, you can't have them before. You don't
well,
know
why
they're
not?
coming. Well, you don't know
why
they're
can't
coming.
they pray to God and say, hey, hang on, Mr. God, let's not have this, you stop it. And then you know the answer as good as me. Why did they do it after? Why is it always after? And all these religions can't
Well,
pray to God to stop it happening.
Just as a matter of interest, when you're walking down the road, do you put your umbrella up after it starts raining or before?
I I should imagine at the same time.
Well, no, you can't do it at the same. You can't do it at the same time.
Oh, all right. Yeah, go on.
You have to do it
again.
You're walking along, you get a blob of water on your head, and you say, "Oh, it's raining." Well, it's already started. So up goes the brolly.
Well, normally I don't use a brolly.
Well, I know, but you know the point I'm making. We all take action.
Clever sod at making these points. Yeah, that's clever.
Well, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, Ken.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Have a good day, mate.
Hey, and you, and don't forget, you always go to pray after the event, not before to stop it. Thanks talking to you,
Bless
Alan.
you, my son. Bye-bye now. What we don't know is how many people have gone to church and prayed and prayed and prayed and said, please don't let there be an earthquake. And there wasn't. Perfectly possible. David, I would argue that many of today's problems are a direct result of organised religions. Just look at the Middle East and all those right-wing Christian supporters of George W. Bush. Just after 12:20, news headlines. Faye Rusko.
The former Manchester United striker Andy Coles won a libel case against the Daily Star after they said he beat his wife. The BBC's been fined £400,000 for misleading viewers and listeners in a series of phone-ins. Comic Relief and Children in Need were among the programmes affected. And an empty tower block in North Manchester's to get a sky lounge, hairdressers and a rooftop jacuzzi. The council have got more than £6 million to spend on the block in Charlestown. Manchester's weather cloudy with rain at times, but brighter later in the day. Highs of 24 Celsius.
The judge said to Andy Cole, did you beat your wife? He said, beat her? I didn't even know we were racing.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
No delays on our motorways right now then, however we are seeing quite a bit of surface water and spray from heavy rainfall on the M62 over the Pennines, so if you happen to be around junction 22 at Rishworth Moor, do take care. Everything looks okay in Salford, but if you're passing through Tildesley, barrier repair work continues on the East Lancs Road. A speed restriction of 40 miles per hour is still in place going westbound, so we are slower than normal on the Liverpool-bound carriageway. If you see anything else, do give me a call on 0161 244 4951. I'm Chris Uni.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk is the email address. You can text on 07786 206 951 and the lines are open on 0161 228 2255. Bill in Bredbury. Hiya, Bill.
Hi, Alan. I've spoken to you before about this, well, sort of problem. The pollution in Beijing.
Yeah.
Right, air quality. Now, they're rehearsing daily and letting fireworks off. Isn't this adding to the pollution? Yes.
I suppose in the very short term, yes. In fact, if you let off loads and loads of fireworks like we do on bonfire night,
Yeah.
then the following day the weather's usually affected.
You ask anybody
adversely.
with chest problems what they like.
Well,
on November
absolutely,
the
yeah,
6th.
absolutely. So in the very short term, like over 24 hours, if there are enough fireworks, then possibly so. But I mean, I've just been on holiday in France. We were in a village called Ceylan, and because it was Bastille Day, 14th of July, they had a great big firework display. And frankly, you wouldn't have known, apart from the flashing and the bangs, you wouldn't have known.
But it's all got to go somewhere.
Well, it has, yeah,
Got to be
but
absorbed.
yeah, but whether that'll affect it in the longer term, well, I suppose yes, minusculely, but not really sure.
Yeah, it's the same when every time they release a rocket to the moon, how much carbon dioxide is produced there?
Quite a bit, I would imagine.
They're only playing. These people are only playing at air quality by hammering the motorists. They don't see the wider picture. I'm sure they don't.
Well, that's probably not too fair, but certainly, if we were going to be very, very strict about fossil fuels and the produce of carbon or the release of carbon into the atmosphere and all the rest of it, if we were going to be very, very strict, then yeah, we'd have to ban fireworks. We'd have to ban all kinds of pointless travel. A bit like me coming in here every day. That's a bit pointless. I should have a bit of wire at our house. You know, so it's because you can sit and talk rubbish in your own lounge, can't you? You don't have to come all this way. So there are lots of things that could be done to to alleviate it, but I'm not that bothered myself.
No.
No, but it's a good point. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bill reckons that the Chinese are talking double talkie, and they're doing it in more than one forum, but they're doing it on this occasion by whining about the pollution in Beijing while simultaneously letting off fireworks. Malcolm in Offerton's a place where they make kidneys, isn't it? Malcolm in Offerton says, so that I could try to get a more balanced view of God bothering a couple of years ago, I decided to do some hands-on research. So I wandered into a nice-looking modern church one Sunday morning. A few visits later, I found out that one of the internal factions had given the minister so much grief and hassle that she had to take long-term sick leave. So I buggered that nice care religion off and wandered into another church, sat down, and the Billy Graham character took to the microphone and delivered a hellfire singing concert and whipped everybody up into a frenzy which ended with a shell-shocking... I can't read that word. Shekeling? With the shekeling pot come out. Oh, shekeling pot. Yeah, money. OK. Which ended with the shekeling pot coming out to the mantra of God loves a giver. The more you give, the more he loves you. So I buggered off at that point as well and gave up my research whilst I could still afford to do it. That's Malcolm in Offerton. Shekeling pot. What a lovely phrase. I've never heard it before, but I may use it from now on, so thank you for that. 01612282255. Peter, well, he's right, isn't he, Alan? After all, you're godless and you're a right troublemaker. That's not fair, thank you. Mark says the rabbi has it wrong way round. Faith is at the heart of the world's ills. We can't base our lives on the fables of a Bronze Age book of fairy tales. Well, why not, if those fairy tales are in fact useful? I'm sure there are bits of most religious books that aren't useful, but the idea that we should treat our fellow being as equals, that we shouldn't commit adultery, that we shouldn't kill, we shouldn't steal, they're fairly universal ideas of most faiths, or they are universal ideas throughout faith. Maybe if we obey them it would be a good idea. And Norman on the Alderley Bypass, that's not where he is, but what he's talking about. The Alderley Edge Bypass, people who live in Glossop and the surrounding Tameside areas have been demanding a bypass for about 20 years now. However, in leafy Alderley Edge, a request is made and bingo! They've got one. Pronto, pronto, pronto. And that's it, that song. I'm just waiting for local businesses post new bypass to complain about the lack of passing trade. Do I sound bothered? Well, I'm not really, Alan. I don't give a monkeys. But it will happen. You can't please all the people all the time. So there, Alderley Edge will get the bypass. The people in Alderley Edge will like it because their nice, expensive houses will be increased in value. But local businesses will be furious. They'll have to close the place. 0161 228 2255. If you want to join us, feel free. Norma in Wigan says, the breakdown of family life, community spirit, no respect, and society is broken down. These qualities are based on the laws of Scripture. So yes, the rabbi is right. It's actually the chief rabbi, but don't be picky. And Paul from Telford says, can you tell me if you do your live shows in the Shropshire area, Telford to be precise? And the answer to that question is no, because nobody's heard of me apart from you in Telford. Come to think of it, not many have heard of me round here. But Telford, no. I'm doing something for Radio 2 in a few weeks' time. So maybe there'll be a clamour for me in Telford then. Yeah, right. Oh, no, I'm not doing a programme. I'm just talking to somebody. I'm a guest on somebody's programme. I'm not telling you any more, no. You don't want to listen to it anyway. It's crap Radio too. David, I admit being a flippant emailer about your robbery, but oh, you're him, are you? You cruel and wicked person. About your robbery, but was sorry later after reading about the young couple in the Caribbean. The young woman who was killed and her husband is in a coma. Well, yeah, but you weren't being flippant about them, David. It's not for me to come to your defence, but you weren't. You were being flippant about me, and in our burglary, nobody got hurt. A few things got stolen, an insurance company will have to spend some money, and we were a little bit inconvenienced, but you're entitled to be flippant about that. Dear God, where would we be if we couldn't do gags? Jean from Rusholme. Alan, I don't go to church or any other place to worship because I ain't religious. My conscience helps me to make me behave myself. Well, that's interesting, actually, because what is conscience? What is one's conscience? And how is it trained? It's not natural. It's not natural. We are just mammals. We are just beasts of the earth, the same as the lions, the tigers, the lizards. I mean, OK, they're not mammals, but we are beasts of the earth. And we have the same beastly attitude in that our job is to protect ourselves, to procreate, and to survive. That's what we do, the same as the lions. The lion doesn't think, oh, it's a bit of a shame eating Bambi. The lion thinks, there's lunch. The snake, as he coils or she coils under the stomach... You see, I'm trying to eradicate sexism from the snake world then, did you see? He or she. But the snake lies there under his rock. If you disturb him, he's afraid, so it bites you. The bigger snake, the 25-foot-long anaconda, sees you and doesn't bite you, it crushes you to death and swallows you whole. So that's the beasts of the field. They don't have conscience. That's a human thing. Now, where does it come from? What is it? Well, it's because we have, I suppose, the ability to deduce. We don't work instinctively. We are able to create rules and mores for our societies. And we do that. And we then require that each of us lives according to those rules. We don't all achieve it, but lives according to those rules, whether they be rules of law or just rules of what we describe as common decency. These have developed over donkey's years. And we've decided that we have responsibilities to ourselves, as the other animals in the world do, but we also have decided that we have responsibility to the pack. Now, we then have to discuss how big the pack is. Ants will give up their lives to protect the queen, because the queen is procreation. Ants don't see themselves as individuals. They see themselves as just elements of the unit. That's how they are. That's not to say it's good, bad, or indifferent. Now, we're not that. We are individuals. We are only part of a unit if we choose to be so. So what is conscience? Well, I would argue that much of the rules of our consciences are the result of organised thought of equality, if you like, organised thought of humanity. They are the organised thought that makes us realise we are part of a collective. We're not 6 billion strands of one thing, as the ants see themselves as. We are part of the collective, but we're a voluntary part of that collective. So it could be argued that the conscience that you describe, Jean, comes in many ways as a result of religious teaching. Now, that's not to say that the religion creates the conscience. It's just that those are the people who have organised the teaching of rights as we understand them and wrongs as we understand them. It's interesting. Kevin says conscience is something you discover you have after you've been caught. Well, no, I think many people avoid being caught by not doing those things for which they could be caught, because their conscience tells them not to. But I like the gag nonetheless. 0161 228 2255. There's something bothering you today, then get it off your chest with us. And you can, of course, do it via email, radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk, and you can text 07786 206 951. Nice and easy. Nice and easy does it all the time. There was a television programme had that as its signature tune, but I'm afraid I don't know what it was. No. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. I would argue that many of today's problems are a direct result. Oh, I've read that one. It's a direct result of organised religions. Well, we've been through that. Yeah. I said that I'm somewhat disappointed, sitting in this chair for getting on 21 years. The BBC has never been fined for something I have done. Teddy Mostyn sends me this. I'm not a pheasant plucker. I'm the pheasant plucker's mate. I'm only plucking pheasants until the pheasant plucker comes. So there you are. He says if you read that out, you will get fined. Only if I read it out wrongly. And I'm not sure I would anyway. But I'm not going to risk it by reading it quickly. Oh, I'm not completely stupid, but it was a nice try. Well done you, as they say. You can be any religion you like, just as long as you're not atheist. See page 2 of today's Metro. Oh, let's have a look. This is from Kevin, obviously objects to buying a paper. Oh, there you are. A council has blocked workers from viewing atheist websites, and that council may face legal action for discrimination. Birmingham City Council has installed software preventing employees from browsing such pages, but allows them to look at the ones on conventional religions. The National Secular Society described the council's move as slightly deranged and said it would consider legal action. The council said our measures are about preventing the abuse of the system. No, if they were about preventing the abuse of the system, they would ban you, presumably, would ban you from looking at sites that were not related to your work. They wouldn't pick and choose those sites that were not related to your work. They would just ban you from doing so. So, no, Birmingham Council, you're talking rubbish. Beryl in Rochdale. Hiya, Beryl.
Hi, Alan. I know you've been on holiday, but I don't know if you looked through your post when you got back. You got one of these congestion...
I've got one, yes, I have. I've not filled it in yet, but go on.
Well, I just want to know whether you're going to fill the back page in if you get round to seeing it. The first page is good. Do you agree with it? How many times you go into Rochdale from where you live? Irrelevant. Turnover... How old are you? What's your ethnic background? Don't think those are relevant, really. Do you?
The age might be. The ethnicity, we've had this pointed out to us before. I think the ethnicity is completely and utterly pointless.
Yes. They do ask for your opinion, so on mine I've filled... well, I'm not filling ethnic... whatever it is, in.
Ethnicity, yeah.
And because it's irrelevant.
I agree.
I don't really see why the age is right. If I travel into Manchester in my car, whether I'm 18 or 81, doesn't really make much difference.
Not if you're travelling by car.
That's the only time I'll use a congestion charge.
Well, yes, but the issue isn't about whether you're going to pay the congestion charge. It's about whether it exists or not. They're asking you your opinion. Now, they might want to be able to look at whether it is... Let us say everybody who votes for it is 81. Well, you wouldn't bring it in because in 5 years' time, they'll all be gone.
Correct.
So that's irrelevant. I can find explanations for the relevance of age. I agree with you that I'm possibly clutching at straws, but I can find it.
Yeah.
But I can't find any relevance for ethnicity. Unless, of course, they're going to have it so that brown people get it free, or brown people pay double, or yellow... Well, it would surprise me if that happened, but I can't see the reason for the ethnic question, other than the people who draw up these forms are actually council automatons. They're not allowed to think. They're prohibited from all serious thought. So... they're told a form, and create a form, and their little head comes on, and light come and create a form. What do you have to have in a form?
We've got to be PC correct.
Exactly. We've got to do all this crap about PC, so we better put it in. And that's what's gone on there, I reckon. But I don't know.
But like I say, it's sort of, I think there's 2 pages to fill in, and there's only maybe 2 questions that I really feel are relevant to the congestion charge. I don't agree with the congestion charge, by the way.
OK, but what questions do you think are relevant?
Do I travel into Manchester by car?
Mm-hmm.
And how many times do you travel into Manchester by car? How many times would you be crossing over the zone?
But that's the only one relevant for you. What about the other questions on there? How many questions are there? I've not even opened mine yet.
Probably about 15, 16 questions. It's the front page, to me, is relevant. You know, and then they ask you sort of your name and address and.
Well, they need that.
They need that to see where you're coming from.
Well, not just to see where you're coming from, to make sure that 300 of them haven't been filled in by the same person.
Yes, that's agreeable. Yeah. So I was just wondering if you've got yours, and you know.
I have got it. I haven't opened it, and had it not been decided that there will be a series of referenda,
Do you think we'll get those?
Well, we are. That's decided upon. We're getting 10 referenda throughout the local authorities. So Rochdale will have one, Oldham will have one, Wigan will have one. So the 10 local authorities of Greater Manchester will each get a referendum.
We've been promised referendums before, actually promised them, and yes, you will have a referendum, and we've never had them.
Well, we have had one.
Well, yes, we got one to go into Europe. I think the majority of us voted no when we went in.
Well, that's not the case. The majority voted yes, and we stayed in. We weren't given a referendum about whether to go into Europe or not. Ted Heath took us in without a referendum, but we were given a referendum on whether we stayed in or not.
Yeah.
And unless the voting was fiddled, we voted in favour of remaining in. However, that's neither here nor there.
That's a different question.
I'm a bit concerned about your suggestion that we've been promised referenda previously and not been given them. Which are you talking about? I think I know, but...
Well, it's sort of it's to do with the government, so it's against this. It's not what I've actually phoned up about, so it's irrelevant anyway.
OK, we'll put that to one side then. Well, we have been told, and it has been agreed and announced that there will be referenda. And so I'm leaving it till then. But thank you very much, Beryl. I'm a bit late now, but it's not your fault. It's just gone 20 to 1. BBC Radio Manchester news headlines with Faye Ruska.
The former Manchester United striker Andy Coles won a libel case against the Daily Star after they said he beat his wife. The BBC's been handed a £400,000 fine by Ofcom after misleading viewers on programmes such as Comic Relief and Children in Need. And teenagers in Manchester who use sunbeds are being targeted with a street theatre performance devised by Cancer Research UK. Manchester's weather, cloudy with rain at times, but hopefully brighter later in the day, highs of 24 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, no delays on our motorways right now. The M60 and 62 are both flowing freely. No reported problems either in Middleton. If you're in Stockport, though, some temporary lights are slowing things down through the roadworks along Spring Gardens. Expect slight delays, but on the whole, you shouldn't be held up for too long. It's a nice, peaceful afternoon, but if you see something, do give me a call on 0161 244 4951. I'm Chris Uni.
BBC Radio Manchester, sports with Dennis Lloyd.
Good afternoon. Michael Vaughan's England captaincy could well be under threat after getting out for a golden duck on the opening day of the third test against South Africa at Edgbaston. England are now 73 for 2. Andrew Strauss was out just before Vaughan. Andre Nell getting both wickets on his recall to the South Africa team. So England 73 for 2 before lunch on the opening day of the third test against South Africa. Lancashire, meanwhile, have made a promising start to their friendly against Bangladesh A at Alderley Edge today. Taking 2 quick wickets before lunch, Stuart Law won the toss and elected to field. Bangladesh are currently 73 for 2 after 12 overs. Law, meanwhile, will captain an MCC 11 against Bangladesh A on Friday at Durham. Wigan midfielder Paul Scharner could miss the start of the season with an ankle injury. The Austrian picked up the problem during last night's pre-season win over Barnsley. Latics new signing Lee Cattermole made his debut in the match. He, of course, completed his move from Middlesbrough yesterday, much to the delight of manager Steve Bruce.
Well, we're delighted that we've been able to get him, and you're right, he's an England under-21 player who's got the whole career in front of him. We hope that he come enjoy his football. Well, again, it's always one of them. He's sort of been a young lad at Middlesbrough and been in and out of the team a little bit, but we're delighted to acquire him. He's young and he's English, and we've managed to get him in at last.
Manchester City striker Bernardo Corradi is expected to complete his move to Italian side Regina later today. The 32-year-old spent last season on loan at Parma. Mark Hughes has banned agents, friends and family from attending Manchester City's training ground. He feels there are too many distractions for the players.
It's where we try and hone our skills, and it's a football factory, and I mean, most people aren't allowed to go see their mates when they're working in a factory, so why should they come to our factory? So we've closed off a lot of the looseness of the building and the way it worked, and I think the players can see the benefit of that. They're not distracted by friends, family, agents, whatever, and the draw that they have on players in and around the building.
Rochdale travel to Hyde tonight for a pre-season friendly, while Northwich entertain Premier League side Blackburn. Wigan Warriors will no longer have the name JJB Sport across their shirts from next season. JJB, who have been the main club sponsor for the last 8 seasons, haven't renewed their deal with the club. Beth Tweddle's preparations for the Olympics have been hampered by a rib injury she picked up in training. The Cheshire gymnast, who's recently recovered from an ankle problem, will spend an extra 3 days in the training camp in Macau before going on to Beijing. British long jumper Chris Tomlinson says he's confident he will recover from a torn calf muscle to compete at the Olympics. The 26-year-old, who limped out of Saturday's Grand Prix at Crystal Palace, has likened his recovery to when Wayne Rooney fractured his metatarsal before the Football World Cup 2 years ago.
I'm actually sat here now in a Wayne Rooney boot, and apparently I'm into some sort of hydrogen or oxygen chamber or something tomorrow, so I guess it's quite similar to a Wayne Rooney scenario as far as I'm concerned. You know, if I get the right mental approach, I'm going to set myself in the best possible way forward.
And Manchester Phoenix will begin the new ice hockey season with a trip to Hull Stingrays on September the 6th. Their first home game will be the following night against the Newcastle Vipers.
So when are you going to Beijing then?
That would be telling, Alan. I've still got room in my suitcase for you. Although it's going to be a big suitcase.
It's going to have to be, isn't it, really?
This is the Northwest's biggest sports station. This is BBC Radio Manchester. No one covers more of Manchester sports.
There's the countdown. There's the hooter.
Football, rugby league, rugby union, boxing, speedway, cricket, athletics, ice hockey. The all-new Manchester sports. Coming soon to the Northwest's biggest sports station. BBC Radio Manchester.
Already mentioned tiddlywinks. Whatever happened to tiddlywinks? Or running round in circles? Or jumping over sticks? We got all that as well with the Beijing Olympics. Dennis in Saddleworth. Hiya, Dennis.
Hi, Alex. You all right?
Not bad.
Just a quickie on your comments a few minutes ago. When we had the referendum,
yeah.
Was it not for a common market as opposed to a federal Europe?
It was, would we remain in the common market? Yes, because that's what it was still at the time, yeah.
So why have we now changed it to federal European issue?
Well, your question is one of those poison questions. One of those, have you stopped beating your wife? You say, why are we now in a federal Europe? The question assumes, and indeed states, that we are in a federal Europe, whereas we are not.
Well, it's far removed from the common market the public of this country voted for.
That could well be so, but I'm not prepared to answer the question you put because the question itself is fallacious. If you want to change your question, I'll have a stab at it, but we're not a federal Europe. More's the pity, I would say.
Right, OK. So why have they taken all the steps they have to move in the direction they've done instead of sticking by what the referendum was voted for, i.e. common market?
Well, the referendum didn't say, would you like to stay in the common market and stop it from progressing? It said, as it stands at the moment, do you want to stop in or do you want to come out?
Well, it hasn't stood as it was at the
Well, no, but no, I mean, it would have been a bizarre person who thought it would. For example, when it was created and we weren't members, they didn't have a referendum in all the other countries. I say all as if there were hundreds, but they didn't have a referendum in the other countries as to whether they wanted to include the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom applied and begged and scraped and cadged and cajoled and threatened, and I even remember a photograph of the great French leader the man that run away from the war, General de Gaulle, and our own dear leader at the time, Edward Heath, walking hand in hand into a meeting. I remember that picture for the rest of my life, I suspect. But they didn't have a referendum in all the other countries saying, should we change Europe or should we change the common market by allowing the UK to join? The UK had a referendum as to, once they had joined, had a referendum as to whether they would stay. But nobody believes, or only the fools believe, that everything will stand still just because you've had a referendum.
Then I would, dare to say many, many, many thousands of others are those fools then.
Then it's good of you to own up. But if you expected it to say the same. So no other countries would have...
common market, not to be... for a trade.
Well, you see...
Not to be ruled by a federal Europe.
Well, we're not ruled by a federal Europe.
Are
we? How?
Yes.
How?
Look at all these silly laws that come in out of Brussels and wherever.
Yes.
Now. Come on, Alex.
Well, if you're saying we're ruled by a federal Europe, would you like to tell me what the word federal means in your mind? Because it might help us.
It means... a lot of countries ruled by one body.
Does it? And you believe that Europe rules the United Kingdom?
Pretty much, yes.
So when Europe said, do not invade Iraq, the United Kingdom said, well, you're the boss, OK, we won't.
No.
So we can go to war, we can put our young men to their deaths without Europe's permission, and yet they rule us.
Yes, pretty much, yes.
Pretty much. By pretty much, do you mean they do or they don't? Which do you mean, pretty much? Rather like you're pretty much dead. If one is pretty much dead, is one alive? 80%. So they rule us 80%. So we have to do... I'm not quite sure now. What do you mean, 80%?
80% of the laws in this country, i.e. taxation, health and safety...
Well, first of all, Dennis, Europe has no say on the taxation of this nation. None. It does have a say...
Does it say we don't have to have... Does it say that, about that? Does it say we have
Well, I was about to finish the sentence, which said they do have a say about value-added tax, in that there are two rules that apply to value-added tax. One is that every item sold within Europe has to be rated for value-added tax, but... the home nations, as they're called, can choose the rate for themselves. And many of the items sold in our country, food and children's clothing spring to mind, are rated, but they're rated at 0. What you cannot do, this is the second rule, that if a rating above 0 is ever applied to a product, it can never be removed back to 0. It can be changed up or down, but it can't go back to 0. So those are the two rules. But whether you actually rate the tax and make tax be payable is a matter for the nation. So they have a rule that you must have a tax on food, but the tax can be 0. That's quite a damning rule, isn't it? That must change everybody's life.
It certainly changes a lot, Alec. It's not belittling it.
Well, I'm not belittling it, but Dennis.
That want something in this country, they can't have it. They then go to Europe, and so many of them get it overturned.
Yes, of course they do. Of course they do, because we have joined a club. And frankly, if you're talking about the courts are nothing to do with the common market. Nothing to do with it at all. The courts are to do with the European Court of Human Rights, which was a treaty that this country decided to sign. You weren't given a referendum on that. This country decided it would join with other countries in Europe and obey the rules of a treaty.
Yeah, well, lots of people like me tend to lock them all together, don't we?
Yes, they do. Like you said, there are many fools, Dennis.
We still get back to the point that we had a referendum on a common market, and we have not got a common market now. We are going into a federal Europe, and by hook or by crook, this left-wing lot of nutters will take us there.
Well, do bear in mind that the people that took us into the common market, and furthermore took us into what you would describe as a federation, were not this left-wing bunch of nutters. The first one was Ted Heath, the second one was Ted Heath, and the third one was a bloke called John Major. You may have heard of him. He was a staunch left-winger. In fact, Stalin had him as his sidekick. Oh, no, he wasn't. He was a Conservative. Such is life. Let's go on the facts, but like you said, Dennis, some people are fools.
Yeah, there's thousands of us in this country.
There are indeed. Vive la fools, say I. Vive la fool.
This government will lose the election because they are treating people like it as well.
Well, that may be so. That may be so, but the government that replaces them will be either Conservative, and they're not going to change our position with the European Union and the European...
You just never know.
And, no, I don't know. You're right. I don't know the future. But I do know what they say. And frankly, the only party currently saying that they would remove... No, there are two. UKIP and the BNP. They're the only two that say we would come out of Europe.
This bunch of people that I'm going to say now are not particularly a political party, but I would say the population of this country are saying the same, to the tune of, I say, 95% of the people I speak to.
Well, that may be so, but come the election, they will be given the option, they won't have to vote, but they'll be given the option to choose between a range of political parties, and of the range offered, only two say that if elected, we would come out of Europe. Only two.
The way we have elections these days, with the immigration policy of this country, means the elections in this country cannot be fair.
What do you mean they can't be fair?
Well, because we have so many immigrants in this country now.
Well, are you suggesting that people who are immigrants to this country are not entitled to vote?
No, they are certainly entitled to vote. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that majority of immigrants into this country come from very, very poor countries. And traditionally, most of those people are dyed-in-the-wool socialists, who's not communists. And consequently, they will vote to the left every time.
Right.
And the volume that's coming in the country states that, you know, it's not really a fair election.
OK, well, if you think the people that come to this country are...
Not all of them, the majority.
The majority are poor and socialist. I wonder what your research is in that, but no matter, I'll take your statement. Good on you, Dennis.
If they weren't poor and they weren't socialist, why are they coming over?
Well, they may actually, I offer this as a thought, you may be able to manage it, they may actually be coming over here, A, because they are poor, and B, because they want to go to a country where capitalism will give them the opportunity to not be poor.
Yeah, that's fine, no problem.
Well, that's not socialism, that's capitalism.
No, but they're
No, what do you mean, no? You said yes, no problem a minute ago. Which is it? Do you mean no? Do you mean yes?
In the wall politically to the left.
You think the people who come to this country to better their political lives, to better their financial lives, are of the left. I would argue the exact opposite. They're coming here to take advantage of capitalism, not socialism.
No, we'll have to beg to differ.
All right, we'll have to beg to differ. Yeah, good on you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Graham, near the airport. Hiya, Graham.
Hi, Alan. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good afternoon, rather.
Any of them, we're not bothered.
Quite. Nice to hear you back, by the way.
Thank you.
Talking about the Alderley Edge bypass.
Yes.
It was in 1929 that the first mention of a bypass was needed came on the statute book.
A couple of wars got in the way.
A couple of wars, well, one war anyway, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
But that was 1929, and they have tried, the council has tried since then to get this bypass. So it took a lot longer than 20 years.
Indeed. Well, it doesn't at all surprise me. Yeah, blimey. What could have been the need of it in 1929?
Well, if I told you, you wouldn't believe.
Oh, go on, tell me.
Well, Councillor Haywood, who was then chairman of Alderley Edge Urban District Council, put there was too much heavy traffic using that road.
We've a cat every fortnight. What do they think we are?
Well, it depends, you see. They may have had 2 or 3 horses drawing those cars.
Well, they may indeed have done that. It reminds me of that wonderful advert. I can't remember what it was for, which doesn't describe it as a wonderful advert. It was a drink of some sort. And it's a Caribbean island of some description, and there's one of those highly coloured buses, and one bloke behind it on a bicycle, and he says, "It's total gridlock, man." Do you remember that ad?
Yes.
Fantastic ad. Well, perhaps it was made in Alderley Edge in 1929. Good on you, Graham. Yeah. Thank you for that fact. It's total gridlock, man, in Alderley Edge in 1929. There was too much heavy traffic going through Alderley Edge in 1929. Isn't it grand when you're by me? 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, Manchester and the world beyond would love to hear it.
I'm Becky Want. Join me today from 2 when Saran Jones will be live from her hairdressers, and so will we. BBC Radio Manchester.
And just remember, where Beswick goes today, the world will follow tomorrow. Yesterday, Alfred came on and said he was an old soldier and he sometimes got offended at the Dad's Army, the Mickey take of the Home Guard. It's all over the papers today.
1FM, DAB Digital Radio,
and the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, the former United striker Andy Cole wins a libel case against the Daily Star, and a computer hacker faces a life sentence in the US.
England suffer a batting collapse.
Well, this afternoon we'll see some patchy rain at times, but it will become drier and a little brighter. Top temperatures 24 Celsius.
An accident in the last 15 minutes then on the M62 between junction 20 at Rochdale and 19 at Haywood. It has just been moved to the hard shoulder, so no lane closures in place, but expect slow-moving traffic if you're heading that way.
Good afternoon, I'm Faye Rusco. The former Manchester United striker Andy Coles won a libel case against the Daily Star after they said he beat his wife. Richard Stead has more details.
Andy Cole sued the Daily Star over a story they ran in February. He'd been arrested on suspicion of assault after an incident at a house in Alderley Edge, but the charges were later dropped. The paper, though, published a sensational front-page story alleging he'd beaten his wife. That wasn't true. But initially the paper refused to apologise. Now they've accepted it wasn't true and have apologised, agreeing to pay substantial, undisclosed damages.
A British man who admits hacking into nearly 100 American military and NASA computer systems has lost his appeal to the law lords against extradition to the United States. Gary McKinnon from North London faces a potential life sentence. Claire Anderson, one of Mr McKinnon's solicitors, says they'll go to the European courts to fight for the case to be dealt with here in the UK.
Obviously, we're very disappointed in the judgment. I would like to say this, however, that Mr McKinnon is neither a terrorist nor a terrorist sympathiser. He's not a threat to national security. His case could have been properly dealt with by our own prosecuting authorities. Instead, we believe that the British government declined to prosecute him to enable the US government to make an example of him. American officials involved in this case have stated that they want to see him fry.
The media regulator Ofcom has fined the BBC £400,000 for faking winners in a series of phoning competitions. Comic Relief, Children in Need and the Liz Kershaw Show on 6 Music were among the programmes involved. A Manchester MP is again backing Gordon Brown after David Miliband set out his ideas for the future of the Labour Party. In an article today, he said New Labour won 3 terms by offering real change and must do so again to win the next general election. It's fuelled rumours he may launch a leadership challenge, but Manchester Central's Tony Lloyd is pouring water on that.
This debate is not about personalities, it's about Labour putting the case for its own record and its vision for the future. And the really important thing he does say is something that should be written on the soul of every Labour MP is to stop fretting, get away for the summer, get refreshed, and let's come back, and I paraphrase, to begin to do serious damage to the emptiness of our political opponent.
Teenagers in Manchester city centre are being targeted with a street performance devised by Cancer Research UK. The performance in Piccadilly Gardens highlights the dangers of using sunbeds. The charity say that using a sunbed before the age of 35 will increase your chance of getting skin cancer by 75%. Jenny Murray got skin cancer when she was 20 after 3 years of using tanning machines 3 times a week.
Don't go on sunbeds. I mean, if you feel you need to go on a sunbed, then just don't misuse them. Make sure that you don't go on every day and you don't go on every week. Just use them every now and again. But I would say don't go on sunbeds. You don't need to go on a sunbed. It can give you skin cancer. It ages your skin. And there's all sorts of fake tans out there that you no need to go on a sunbed. They're so cheap now.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Joanne Smith.
England have suffered a batting collapse just before lunch on day one of the third test against South Africa at Edgbaston. The hosts have lost 3 wickets for just 6 runs. Andrew Strauss, Michael Vaughan for a golden duck, and just now Kevin Peterson for 4. At lunch, England are 82 for 3. It's been a good start for Lancashire, meanwhile, in their friendly against Bangladesh A at Alderley Edge. After winning the toss and electing to field, they've taken 3 quick wickets before lunch. Bangladesh are 94 for 3. That's after 17 overs. Meanwhile, Stuart Law will captain an MCC 11 against Bangladesh A on Friday at Durham. Wigan could be without Paul Sharner for the start of the season. The midfielder will have a scan on his ankle today after limping off in last night's pre-season win at Barnsley. Manchester City striker Bernardo Corradi is expected to complete his move to Italian side Regina later today. The 32-year-old spent last season on loan at Parma. And Blackburn winger David Bentley will undergo a medical at Tottenham.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, this afternoon there will be an awful lot of cloud around, but at times we will see 1 or 2 brighter spells, but we are going to see some patchy rain on and off through the afternoon as well. It's going to be breezy, top temperatures 24 Celsius.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Is this a misprint? I don't believe what I read sometimes. You know this thing I have, this computer that keeps me up to date, allegedly, with what's going on in the world. Well, listen to this. Senior provincial and military officials say nearly 50,000 Iraqi police and soldiers, backed by the US-led coalition troops, are taking part in a new military offensive northeast of Baghdad. 50,000? They don't mean 50,000. 50,000? For God's sake. I know, that's a lot. There weren't that many at D-Day. 50,000? For crying out loud, that can't be true. Anyway, there you are. I read it out. You're as well informed as me now. We both got the wrong information. Chris in Wigan, are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Beswick.
Good afternoon,
yes, there were 50,000 at D-Day. There were actually 112,000.
Indeed. The point still stands, though, doesn't it?
Right.
50.
Yeah, the point still stands.
I don't think there are 50,000 taken. Maybe there are. We'll see. Anyway, go on, Chris.
Could be. I hope you had a good holiday. I've not had a bad one. I've just come... Well, I got back last night, and so I've listened to your programme for the first time in a few weeks.
Who are you?
Good to hear your dulcet tones again.
Go on.
I see you're putting poor people through the ringer once more.
How did I put poor people through the ringer?
Well, I'll get to that in a moment.
OK.
First of all, your statement that ants are willing to sacrifice themselves. How in God's name do you know what ants think?
I don't
Have you ever
know.
had a conversation with an ant?
I don't know what they think, but you can...
What's the behaviour?
You can
but you've obviously never seen those Disney films, have you?
I know. I have seen the films, and I thought they were cartoons. I didn't realise they were ant actors.
No, they were recorded with a handheld webcam.
A very, very small one.
No, the other chap, I can sympathise with him a little bit. A lot of people do seem to believe that our country is ruled by Europe.
They do.
Because a lot of people, unfortunately, buy the wrong paper at the newsstands, and they'll pick up things like, I hope I'm allowed to say this, the Daily Express and the Daily Mail,
you are
which are constantly on about either what you are allowed or not allowed to put in your bin, where have all the bobbies gone, why are we paying all this money for scroungers, and so on and so forth. It just keeps going round and round and round and round and round and round and round. You're quite correct when you say that the vast majority of the important decisions are not made by... actually, I think they're made by the judiciary, actually. It seems to be anyway, or by a very small group of people.
You are now falling into the same trap, aren't you?
No.
By saying they are made by the judiciary. The judiciary do not make law. The judiciary decide what the actual words written in the Act mean.
Let's put it this way, Alan. I think they have a great influence in setting people's minds to think in certain ways.
Well, let us say not that they have a great influence, but there is consequence of what they do. It's rather different. I actually believe that when a judge, and therefore judges, but when a judge makes a pronouncement on what the law says, he or she is relying entirely on the words of the Act. That by Act, I mean Act of Parliament. Now, it may well be that he or she has misinterpreted those words.
Well, that's the word I was going to interject with, interpretation.
And that's for the Court of Appeal, and then, indeed, the ultimate appeal in our country on matters of Act. matters of statute, will go to the House of Lords. And if still we can't resolve it, then there is a superior court that can discuss it. But in truth, the judge won't be making a pronouncement for society. He'll be making a pronouncement on what the Act said, and that will depend on the people who drafted the Act.
I had to laugh, though, at one comment one of your previous listeners made, when he talked about, with a very broad brush, he painted an image of the left, these left-wingers. I thought, what? You'd have to get a microscope out to find a left-winger in Parliament these days, and you certainly wouldn't find one on the front bench of the Labour Party.
Well, no, I don't think he was referring to the front bench of the Labour Party.
When he said the left, he was referring, I think, to the Labour Party, when he was suggesting that all this country's woes are the fault of those lefties in the Labour Party who got us into Europe. That seemed to be the general gist of his conversation. And as you rightly pointed out to him, it was the Conservative Party who took us into Europe, I believe, or kept us there, one of the two.
I think both, in fact.
Both, in fact, yeah. I think in those days, 30-odd years ago, yeah, you could see a discernible difference between the parties and their aspirations and their moral values and so on. But I don't think you can do now. It's a bit like that part in Animal Farm, where one of the animals, I think it's the donkey, looks up, gazes at the faces of the pigs and can't eventually distinguish from men to animals, from men to pigs. Well, it's the same thing with the Labour and the Conservatives. But I'll leave you to guess which one are the pigs.
I was just going to say, I won't ask. Chris, good to talk to you. Thank you very much. 0161 228 2255. Good morning.
Heather
Good afternoon.
The best guests. And a no dull people guarantee.
Jenny Murray, she's one of the nation's best-loved broadcasters, and she's now put her life story down on paper.
A lot of women have very difficult relationships with their mothers. What I wanted to try and do was understand why a relationship could be as full of love as it was and as full of resentment as it was.
Heather starts tomorrow morning from 9 on BBC Radio Manchester.
How arrogant do you have to be to write your own biography? In other words, to write an autobiography? You've really got to be arrogant for that, haven't you? I'm not having a go at Jenny, she's a very nice lass, but you've really got to be arrogant for that, to write an autobiography. If somebody writes a biography about you, you can't know much about that. You can approve it or disapprove it, but they're entitled to do it whether you like it or not. But to write your own, to sit there and think, I'm going to write, 25,000 words for people to read about my life. You've either got to be dead short on money and need a bob or two, or else more arrogance than is good for you. Ian in Sale, hiya.
Hiya, Alan. I just wondered, really, whether we were now going to have a Muslim Prime Minister or a Sikh one with this bangle business. It amazes me that a kid can get away with it, I think they must be terrified of offending them, mustn't they?
Well, they weren't terrified of offending them in terms of the school itself. The school had a no jewellery policy and said you're not wearing jewellery. But we then have to decide what jewellery is.
Well, there was a guy on the radio yesterday, and he's a Sikh, and his company objects, and he wears it round his neck on a chain, which apparently is acceptable to the Ayatollahs, the priests or whatever. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just wondering what the word jewellery means.
Yeah.
I think it's probably relevant. So
Yeah.
I was the other side of the room getting my
jewellery,
dictionary.
Yeah. I'll tell you the other thing that I wonder as well, how much it costs to go to the High Court.
Well, it costs thousands of pounds, but what else would you have happen if two people or two organisations or a person are at loggerheads? Then somebody has to make the decision, don't they?
But in our day, didn't we always assume the school was right, even if it was wrong? If you know what I mean.
But that doesn't mean that we should.
No.
I can give you the dictionary definition of jewellery. Objects that are worn for personal adornment, such as bracelets, rings, necklaces, etc. And jewellery is when they are considered collectively. So if a school has a policy of no jewellery, that means no wearing of items for personal adornment.
But this isn't, is it? This is a religious thing.
Well, that's the point that I think is being made. If your faith says that you must wear it, then it's not jewellery. By definition, it's not for personal adornment.
Apparently, the school do allow studded earrings, you know. So where do you draw the line?
Well, the school drew the line and said we're quite happy to allow certain elements. And a school is entitled to say, this is our policy. We don't allow jewellery other than small ear studs. That's not studs in small ears, but the studs themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah?
But the big thing to me was, apparently, according to this morning's Telegraph, it's not to be seen as a precedent. So, in other words, if anybody else has the same idea, they'll have to go all through it again. But last night on TV, they mentioned 2 or 3 where it's been thrown out. One was a girl wearing one of these face things, you know, Jebra or whatever it is. I mean, I know in my local school, Altrincham Grammar, they got a bit iffy about these headscarves, you know.
I've never quite understood why. You see, I think that religions, whatever, and I've not got one, religions should be entitled to do whatever they please and set whatever rules they please. Their members, those who follow that particular faith, should be entitled to decide which they will believe and which they will not.
Yeah.
And provided none of the rules harm anybody, I don't see the point for the fuss.
I mean, the point is, if your religion said you went to school stark naked, you can see that wouldn't work. But, I mean, something like this bangle, if she sincerely believes, and apparently they're giving them virtually the day they're born, you know, every Sikh wears one. One of the cricketers wears one as well. So, I mean, surely to goodness, I suppose really I can see both sides of it. If they let one girl wear a bangle, everybody will be wearing them, won't they?
But again, I can't quite see the harm. I can remember when I was at school, I went to a school where they did engineering, so we had lathes and all that, and none of the lads were allowed to wear a tie.
Yeah, for obvious reasons.
But we had to wear one everywhere else, but you couldn't wear one in the workshop. You weren't allowed to wear rings or anything like that. I don't wear rings. Exactly. Now you can see the reason for that, but if it's just for the sake of, well, we've taken against strange haircuts or bangles, I can't see the point. What does it matter?
No, and I mean she does, only from television interviews, but she does seem to sincerely believe that she wants, you know, it's religion and not, you know, I want a shiny bangle sort of thing, you know.
So it's not jewellery.
No, well, by your dictionary definition, it isn't, is it?
That's the only definition we have of words.
Yeah. Right, thanks.
Have a good day, Ian. 0161 228 2255. Dave in Woodley says, will it make a difference on the congestion charge if it's found that we travel into Manchester more than they thought we would? I suppose it might. I suppose if the revenue from it, once it comes in, assuming it does, if the revenue from it is greater than was expected, then either they will pay off their debts rather more quickly, or indeed they will be able to reduce the charge to make, in order to have enough money to make the payments, or they could use the money for something else. You must make your own judgment where that goes. Colin in Bolton says, where there are no scruples, there is no conscience to examine with a point of view of improvement. How come your caller doesn't believe in God but still believes in Jesus? Well, you can believe in Jesus and not believe in God. Of course, you can't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, or even a third of God, or even the Blessed Trinity and all the rest of it if you don't believe in God. But you can believe that a bloke with a beard and sandals got nailed to some sticks on a big hill just outside Jerusalem, if you want, and that his name happened to be Jesus, without believing in God. So that's possible. Hi, Mr. B. Oh, nice. I'm now aged 75 and remember a bypass being promised for Hazel Grove when I was a schoolboy. I'm still waiting, says DH. Alan, I'm due to get made redundant. I get a basic wage. I have to work overtime every week. And I also get bonuses. Do my employers have to take my overtime and bonuses into account for my redundancy pay? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, and I should. I used to know the answer to that, but because I don't deal in all that sort of stuff anymore, it's been a long, long time, I hesitate to reply. So, I don't know, is the answer I'll give you. I'll bet there's somebody that does. The simple thing to do is to email your local Citizens Advice Bureau. If you're a member of a trade union, ask them. Or indeed, you can probably look it up on the internet. But I don't know the answer. I don't know what the payment rules are in that respect. Anyway, they will be there, so it's dead easy to find out. There is the directgov.uk website, direct.gov.uk website. Calculate your redundancy pay. There you are. Money, tax and benefits, blah, blah, blah. So there is a website that explains it in fairly clear detail. So have a bash at that. Susan in Eccles. Hiya, Susan.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well.
Very good, you sound it. You're on form.
I'm glad to hear it. What can we do for you, Susan?
Well, what it is, this kid in Wales...
That's narrowed it down.
Yes.
Which one?
The one with this bangle.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
When she went to this school, they knew the rules of the school when she went there.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't she go to another one?
Well, why should she?
Well, if the parents and she knew the rules of no jewellery apart from ear studs and a wristwatch, why didn't they send her to another school that allowed jewellery?
Because they didn't believe their child was wearing jewellery.
Oh, right.
It's not jewellery.
I see. Okay.
Because jewellery is for adornment, and this is not adornment. It's a requirement of her faith. It's part of her nature.
Right. Okay.
So that could be why. I mean, they could have a policy of no gold. You must not wear gold at all, and then somebody with a gold tooth is not allowed. They say, well, I can't go to that school. They don't allow gold.
Oh, okay, then.
All right.
No, but it just suddenly struck me. I thought, well, all this fuss about, a bangle, if the parents knew that it wasn't going to be allowed in that school, why didn't they send her to another one where they knew she would be allowed to wear it?
I've given you one answer. One answer is that it's not jewellery. The other answer is, while schools should be at liberty to make decisions about the clothing and other adornments of their pupils, those rules, because schools are owned by us, not by the teachers, we pay for them. It's our money that's paying for these schools. We have to make sure that they don't have irrational rules.
Yeah, it's just that my sister's a head teacher in Lytham, and I've had a word with her about this, and she said that no, they wouldn't have allowed that in their school.
Well, they may have found themselves in court only to lose.
Possibly.
Good on you, Susan. Thank you very much.
Okay,
it does look like it, doesn't it? 0161 228 2255. It's just gone 1:20. We got the news headlines with Faye Rusco.
The former Manchester United striker Andy Coles won a libel case against the Daily Star after they said he beat his wife. A British man who admits hacking into nearly 100 American military and NASA computer systems has lost his appeal to the law lords against extradition to the United States. Gary McKinnon faces a potential life sentence. And teenagers in Manchester who use sunbeds are being targeted with a street theatre performance devised by Cancer Research UK. Manchester's weather cloudy with rain at times, but brighter later in the day. Highs of 24 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, our motorways are looking clear and incident-free this afternoon. The M60 is fine and the M62 is moving well in both directions around junction 20 at Rochdale. In Altrincham, Ashley New Road is still closed southbound, so that's closed heading out of town. Expect it to be heavier than normal along the diverted route of Oxford Road. And if you get stuck in a queue, do please let me know. You can give me a call on 0161 244 4951. I'm Chris Uni.
2020 traffic means you get an update every 20 minutes through the day.
BBC Radio Manchester.
I've just been, whilst Faye's been doing the headlines, looking at the rules on redundancy pay. They're fairly straightforward, honest. To calculate your... Yeah, I know, it's weird. Statutory redundancy pay, I suppose there we mean the minimum. Your weekly pay is what's used as the sort of the unit. That's what's used to work it out. But your weekly pay only up to £330 per week. So if you earn, however you do it, if you earn more than £330 per week, the amount you earn above 330 doesn't count towards your redundancy pay, according to what I'm reading now, which purports to be a government website, and I think it is. So there's that, first of all. So that now, what constitutes a week pay? Well, all right, let's have a look and see. Blah, blah, blah. Money take me a bit longer to work that out. I don't really have time to go through it in detail, but it, just on first look, a cursory glance tells me that it's the amount of money you have earned rather than the amount of money you were guaranteed, if you will. So it's the wages you got rather than your basic wage, but it is up to a maximum of 330 quid a week. That's how I understand it. You would be better off checking the website when you've got more time than I've got to work through it to get a definition of what a week's pay is. And if you can't do that, or if you've not got the website or whatever, then get in touch with nearest Citizen Vice Bureau, or indeed ACAS. ACAS will be able to tell you as well. But the way these websites work is they give you the rules and regulations, and then they have to go into definitions of the words used. It's that trick I always play, and actually looking at the precise meaning of the words used. And there are all sorts of places you can get help. I can give you a phone number, ACAS, and they're open from 8 till 6, and ACAS's number is 08457 4747 47. So there you are. So ACAS's number is 08457 4747 47, and they'll give you the definition of what a week's pay is, so that you can then make the calculation yourself. Rini in Stockport, hiya.
Hiya. Well, this is I don't know how to put this exactly, but it's about my daughter, and she'd been involved in a car accident. It's several years ago, and it's still ongoing. The what's her name? And there's some of the reports from the solicitor, and on one particular one, it says Dr. W reports that her elderly mother had become ill in March 2007, and she had to look after. I note that she took 2 weeks off leave herself for probably the same reason. But she's never had time off with work with me.
Right. When you say the solicitor...
No, it's nothing to do... These are just solicitor's notes that my daughter's been sent, okay?
Right, but are they the solicitor for your acting for your daughter?
Yes.
Yes. So it's the solicitor acting for your daughter.
It's a solicitor. These are the notes that she has received from this Dr. W.
Right, I'm not helped here. What I want to know is the notes, the solicitor's notes.
Yes.
They are presumably the notes from an interview between the solicitor and an individual. Are they?
Well, these are going to court. You see, these notes are going to court.
Right, so
it's in the court.
So it's in the solicitor's bundle, as they're called.
That's right. Yes, I suppose so.
Now, is this the bundle from the other side?
Well, I don't know. I think this woman's supposed to be for this person. Is supposed to be for my daughter. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
Right. Well,
I would think so.
Well,
because she must be for.
Well, I can't progress without knowing, and a guess won't help me to help you.
No.
So, I can't help you because you've not got enough information for me to be able to help you.
Well, I can't give you the information without giving the names.
Well, you can give me... Look, there are...
This person is the doctor of.
Well, that doesn't matter. A simple question at the moment is... Your daughter, you tell me, Rini, is... Now, is your daughter claiming that the accident was somebody else's fault, or...
No, she was stationary. She was hit in the back.
So she is claiming that the accident was somebody else's fault?
Yeah, she's had 2 operations
No, I don't care what she's had. Please just...
No.
In order for me to help you, I need information.
Yeah.
But I don't need any more than that which I ask for.
No.
So, your daughter is claiming damages...
Yes.
From another driver. correct?
From an insurance, yes.
Well, she's claiming... No, she's claiming from the driver. The driver's
Yeah.
got the insurance company dealing with it, but she's claiming from the driver.
That's correct.
I know.
Yes.
Right. Now, has your daughter appointed a solicitor on her behalf?
No, it's the insurance.
No, well, OK. Is your daughter represented by a solicitor?
Yes.
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 Right. The bundle of papers your daughter has just received,
Yes.
were they sent to her by her solicitor?
Correct.
Now, when they were sent, are they the information that your daughter's solicitor is going to use in court to make her case? Or are they the documents that the other person's solicitor is going to use to make their case? Which is it?
Oh, it'll be my daughter.
You're guessing, you don't know.
No, well,
You're saying it will be. I need to know what it is.
the person took full liability for the accident.
No, you see, you've asked me a question about something in the bundle,
Yeah.
but you're not able to tell me which bundle it is.
Well, I know it's a bundle that's going
Well,
to
I
go
know
to
it's a
court.
bundle. Yes, but there will be two bundles. One will be the bundle in your daughter's case, your daughter's side of the case. The other bundle will be in the other side's case. Which is it?
My daughter's.
You're certain?
Yes.
Right. Now, this doctor, is it a doctor of medicine?
Psychology, I think.
OK, we'll call that medicine. We'll
Yeah,
stretch
yeah,
it that
yeah,
far. All right.
I didn't think I...
That's OK, don't worry. Don't worry. No, you're allowed to answer what I ask.
Yeah, yeah.
But we do have to be careful in other respects.
Yeah.
Now, is the piece of information you quoted to me, the statement you quoted to me, is that made by the doctor following an examination of your daughter?
Consultation.
Consultation
Yes.
of your daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, was that doctor working for your daughter's solicitor or the other side's solicitor?
My daughter's solicitor, but can I just add that my daughter did stop seeing her because she didn't feel that it was having any effect. You know, she didn't feel that it had any effect on the stress she was suffering, all the pain. So she stopped. She
stopped seeing, but she was going to see this psychologist following the accident.
Yes.
Right. And presumably, the costs of those consultations are being sought from the other driver.
Yes.
The other driver's insurance.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the statement that she's taking, or you're taking exception to.
Yes.
Tell me the statement again, slowly.
She has.
I don't know who she is.
Well, this doctor psychologist.
Right, the psychologist. Don't say she. Say the psychologist.
The psychologist has as good as inferred.
No. Please, just tell me what they've said.
I note she took 2 weeks.
Who's she?
Well, my daughter.
Right, I note your daughter.
I note she took 2 weeks sick leave in March 2007, probably because the reason being that her mother was ill. Now, I've had emphysema.
No, it doesn't matter. Ignore that. I don't care.
No.
I don't care.
It's
Please
not
stop. I don't care. So the psychologist has said that no, he said. He's not inferred. He said. You read it out to me.
Yeah, yes, she said
The doctor has said, the psychologist has said, that he notes that your daughter took 2 weeks sick leave in March.
Yes.
And that he believes it was to look after you.
Yes.
Now, you're saying that statement is not correct?
No.
OK. A daft question. Does your daughter say that that statement is not correct?
Oh, yes.
No, that's fine. Yes, we'll do.
Yes.
Why did your daughter take 2 weeks off in March 2007?
Because she was in chronic pain.
She was in pain.
Yeah.
Okay. Has your daughter told this since getting the bundle, as I've called it? Has she told this to her solicitor?
Unfortunately, her sister... Her solicitor,
So no is the answer.
No,
Then
she's
she
gone,
needs...
She's away.
It doesn't matter. The answer's no.
No, that's right.
Then she needs to do so.
Don't get nasty with me.
I'm not getting nasty. I'm trying to press you into the place I need you to be to help you. And if that sounds like nasty, I apologise. But don't worry. But your daughter does need to tell her solicitor. Now, the best way to do that is to write a letter, seeing as how the solicitor's away, to write a letter to the solicitor and say that the statement made by the psychologist is not correct. Okay?
Yes.
That's it. Because that can have a material effect on the case. Not a big one, because if the judge, when he or she is looking at it, believes that your daughter took time off to look after you, that's not compensatable, because looking after you isn't a cause of the accident. But if, of course, it was the chronic pain that made her take time off, that is covered, and she would be entitled to compensation of loss of earnings. Now, did your daughter get a sick note? Because you usually need one for 2 weeks rather than one.
My daughter always gets sick. If she's off, she always goes to the doctor, and the doctor gives her a sick note.
Excellent. So
and it goes within 3 days to the hospital she works at.
Right. Oh, well, she works at the hospital. They're very, very strict.
Yes.
Well, she needs to make that point also to the doctor, that not only was I off sick because of my illness, but because of my condition caused by the accident, but there's a sick note to prove that.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So it does need to be corrected. It's not a major thing, but it does need to be corrected.
It's unfair, though.
Well,
to say she was off with me, and my daughter never has time off work with me.
Well,
she might ring a couple of 2 or 3 times a day because I have asthma and emphysema, and I'm 80.
But, I mean, yes, and I understand that, and I understand the offence that statement...
It is offensive, yes.
Yeah, I understand that the offensiveness of the statement. I do understand that.
Yeah.
But the more important part, because courts and claims against insurance companies are horrible things, they don't deal with offence much. The more important part is it's factually inaccurate, and that inaccuracy could affect the amount of compensation, if indeed there be any.
Yes.
Because if, for example, she lost... I'm making numbers up for convenience, really, but if she lost £300 in wages, but the court was prepared to believe that she took the time off voluntarily, not related to the accident, she won't get that £300.
No, but she'd get carer's leave.
Well,
she could have had carer's
leave. Well, she could have had carer's leave, but the point I'm making is just
Yeah.
about the court. When the court is totting up what she has lost as a result of the accident, the loss of earnings, 2 weeks in March 2007, oh no, she wasn't off because of the accident then, she was looking after her mum.
Yeah.
Well, she wouldn't get paid for that.
No,
So that needs to be corrected.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, right, thank you very much.
Sorry to bully you, but sometimes I don't have a lot of time, so I have to push people.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you've no reason to be sorry, Reenie. Good heavens. It's me that should be sorry for being so rough. All right, love. Have a good day. So get her to write to a solicitor. Better still, make an appointment. 0161 228 2255. Clearly, I'm just naturally a brute. Hi, Alan, says Billy in St Helens. The TV advert you're thinking of, the one with the... It's total gridlock. The accent, I don't think they do it in a Welsh accent. Anyway, listen, I don't go to the Caribbean much. In fact, I've never been. Billy in St Helens says it's for Lilt, the drink. The total tropical taste, I should have known. Hi, Alan, the advert you were thinking of was for the drink Malibu. No, it wasn't. It was Lilt. It wasn't Malibu at all. Stephen in Old Trafford. Malibu's horrible anyway. Oh, it's vile. Mind you, I don't like coconut, so that's going to hold me back when attempting to like Malibu, innit? Really? I know you don't care, but that's neither here nor there. Kevin says the Welsh have never been the same since they stopped them burning other people's cottages. I remember one activist, when being sentenced, said, "I don't recognise this court." To which the judge replied, "This court recognises you, young man. 6 months." Fair enough. For burning house down, 6 months. Should have got more than that. 0161 228 2255. Yeah. Now I think I've done all them texts now, except the one that's dead long. I'll read the dead long one, and then we'll do the sport and all that other gubbins. But here we go. Good morning, Alan. Every religion in the world is right according. What? I don't understand that. According its lights, but only one at a time. OK. If every single person in the world woke up one morning believing in the one true wallaby, there would be peace and harmony everywhere. The trouble is, by the end of the first day, someone would decide that such and such is the wrong way to do something. Before you know where you are, you've got another religion, and the strife is back. I think your thumb got the better of you in your first sentence, because it doesn't add up to me. It could just be me, of course, but I'm not prepared to accept that lightly. As it's told you it was quite long, as opposed to wrong, which is something entirely different. And David says, "Hi, Alan, I believe in what Jesus was trying to do. I don't believe that he was anything other than a man. What he did and said, including the magic tricks to hold the people. It really annoys me that he's always referred to as Christ. Can you find any fault?" That's from David. I don't know. I don't know whether... I don't know. Magic tricks? Magic tricks? Feeding 5,000 with a couple of fish sandwiches? Yeah, and there were more crumbs, apparently. There were more crumbs than they began with. And coming back from the dead, now that's a trick. Just gone 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines with Richard Stead.
The former Manchester United striker Andy Cole's won a libel case against the Daily Star for saying he beat his wife. It wasn't true, and the paper have now apologised and have agreed to pay substantial undisclosed damages. The former Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic has been flown to the Netherlands to face war crimes charges. He's blamed for thousands of deaths in the 1990s and will appear before a UN war crimes tribunal tomorrow. And an empty tower block in North Manchester to get a sky lounge, hairdressers and a rooftop jacuzzi. The block in Charlestown will have 92 apartments for older people. Manchester's weather cloudy with rain at times, but brighter later this afternoon. Highs of 24 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Well, on the M6 southbound, I'm just hearing we've got a broken down lorry. It's at junction 22, Newtonley Willows. It's in lane 2 of the motorway, so right in the middle of the carriageway. Lanes 2 and 3 are blocked as a result, so you can expect a lot of congestion if you're heading that way. Elsewhere, though, the M60 and M62 are both flowing freely, so it's only really the M6 where you'll encounter any motorway delays at the moment. Into Royton and Shaw Road remains closed for roadworks. It's a major road, so do expect it to be heavier than normal on the diverted routes of High Barn Street and Manchester Road. And if you get stuck in a queue, please do let me know. Give me a call on 0161 244 4951. I'm Chris Uni.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Joanne Smith.
Good afternoon. Well, it's not good news. England have suffered another batting collapse.
Nell runs in over the wicket, balls, and Vaughan almost plays a appeal for God. He's out first ball. He stands there absolutely mortified. The finger went up straight away. Nell appealed immediately.
Well, on day one of the third test against South Africa at Edgbaston, they've lost 3 wickets in 6 runs just before lunch. Andrew Strauss for 21. You heard Michael Vaughan there for a golden duck, and Kevin Peterson for 4. They've just resumed after lunch. England are now 88 for 3. Stephen Cheetham has taken 3 wickets for Lancashire. They've made a good start to their friendly against Bangladesh A at Alderley Edge. Chris Malaban's there.
Bangladesh A struggling here, 119 for 6 in the 31st over, and Cheetham's 3 wickets have really made the difference in this innings for Lancashire. The visitors got off to a very good start and were going nicely at 72 for 1, with Tamim Iqbal striking the ball beautifully. But when he went, a collapse was rather started. Cheetham with 3 wickets, 1 each for Keedy, Croft and Mahmood, as Lancashire started to really tear into the Bangladesh A middle order. 119 for 6 here, the visitors, in the 31st over.
Thank you, Chris. Meanwhile, Stuart Law will captain an MCC 11. That's against Bangladesh A on Friday at Durham. Mark Hughes has banned agents, friends and family from attending Manchester City's training ground. He feels there are too many distractions for the players.
It's where we try and hone our skills, and it's a football factory, and I mean, most people aren't allowed to go see their mates when they're working in a factory, so why should they come to our factory? So we've closed off a lot of the looseness of the building and the way it worked, and I think the players can see the benefit of that. They're not distracted by friends, family, agents, whatever, and the draw that they have on players in and around the building.
Meanwhile, City striker Bernardo Corradi is expected to complete his move to Italian side Regina later today. The 32-year-old spent last season on loan at Parma. Wigan could be without Paul Shanna for the start of the season. Midfielder will have a scan on his ankle today after limping off in last night's pre-season win at Barnsley. Meanwhile, manager Steve Bruce has told BBC Radio Manchester Marlon King could stay at the club. Hull City had agreed a fee with the Latics for the former Watford striker, but talks broke down last week.
The simple thing is that we accepted a bid, and I told the boy about it about 10 days ago from Hull. I said to him at the time, as far as I'm concerned, if it's not right, then it's not right. Now, things aren't right at the moment with the deal. The thing about Marlon, I have to say, is that he's knuckled down and trained properly, and he's given me food for thought, that's for sure. If it doesn't happen, then he stays with us and be part of the squad.
Blackburn winger David Bentley will undergo a medical at Tottenham today. It's believed a fee of £15 million has been agreed. Oldham boss John Sheridan will decide whether to sign Jamaican international Demar Phillips in the next few days. The winger, who's on trial from Stoke City, played 60 minutes in their 1-1 draw against Hull City last night. Rochdale, meanwhile, travel to High tonight for a pre-season friendly, while Northwich entertain Premier League side Blackburn. Wigan Warriors will no longer have the name JJB Sports across their shirts from next season. JJB, who have been the main club sponsor for the last 8 seasons, haven't renewed their deal with the club. British long jumper Chris Tomlinson says he is confident he will recover from a torn calf muscle to compete at the Olympics in Beijing. The 26-year-old, who limped out of Saturday's Grand Prix at Crystal Palace, has likened his recovery to when Wayne Rooney fractured his metatarsal before the World Cup in 2006.
I'm actually sat here now in a Wayne Rooney boot, and apparently I'm into some sort of hydrogen or oxygen chamber or something tomorrow, so I guess it's quite similar to a Wayne Rooney scenario as far as I'm concerned. You know, if I get the right mental approach, I'm going to set myself in the best possible way forward.
Meanwhile, Beth Tweddle's preparations for the Olympics have been hampered by a rib injury she picked up in training. The Cheshire gymnast, who's recently recovered from an ankle problem, will spend an extra 3 days in the training camp in Baku before going to Beijing.
This is the Northwest's biggest sports station. This is BBC Radio Manchester. No one covers more of Manchester sports. Football, rugby league, rugby union, boxing, speedway, cricket, athletics, ice hockey. The all-new Manchester sports. Coming soon to the Northwest's biggest sports station. BBC Radio Manchester.
Mind you, Peter sent a text saying, Alan, why do your sports team report it when the English cricket team does badly? That's not news. It is cruel. Mark says, it also says in the Bible that I can kill my wife if she has an affair. I can kill my neighbour or my family if they worship other gods, or even keep slaves. I think that means you can keep slaves, not you kill your family for keeping slaves. It means you get... Yeah. A good moral book? Well, yeah, I didn't say it were perfect, did I? And that advert is for Malibu, not Lilt. It's the best ad that's been on for years, says Billy. I think it's for Lilt. I do. Total tropical taste. The other one that was good was Umbongo. Umbongo, Umbongo. They drink it in the Congo. I don't know whether they do drink it in the Congo. But I wouldn't anyway, because I don't think it's nice. But there you are. I'm a Jedi, says Andy. Does this ruling about the Sikh bangle mean that I can take my lightsaber into work? Of course you can, Andy, don't you worry. Tell them I said it'd be all right. Say, when you go to work, say, yeah, I know, look at it, but Beswick says it's okay. Yeah, Jedi. That's a religion now, is it? Right. I tell you what, I'll let you take your lightsaber to work if you promise to have your forehead done like a Jedi. Ideally with an axe. Malcolm in Offerton, you may not have got a fine. Oh, yeah. But do you remember the Alan Ball incident? Yeah, I do. I never got fined, though. I got swore at. Yeah, things like that. Oh, I've had a few, but I've never been fined, or the BBC's never been fined because of me. I was sceptical about the water into wine until I read that Charlie Juggears turned wine into petrol. Who's Charlie Juggears? Who could that be, do you think? He's the next King George, you know. I think I've read that somewhere. I think I have read that King George, that Prince Charles will be King George when he becomes king. I think that's what I've read. I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. Pat from Timberley, the Caribbean voice is used in an ad for Comfort fabric conditioner. Tropical. It's okay, I'm waiting for the penny to drop, but it's not dropping. I don't know what that means. No. The bloke on the bike who's in the Caribbean, we think, behind the bus, saying, "It's total gridlock, man." That's not for a fabric conditioner. That's for lilt. It's not for Malibu, because Malibu, that's all about Malibu. Like it gives you a bigger willy or whatever. I can't remember which it is. Mind you, rubbing it in's not good. Alan, well, it's fun rubbing, but by God, you dance quite well after, I'm told. David in Crumpsall says, OK, I missed out the word to in according to it's light. All right. Oh, thank you. It's always nice when you tell me what I was meant to be reading out. It does help, if only a little bit. Now, I said yesterday, and I ran out of time and forgot, but I said, VAT. Politics, VAT. Standard VAT rates could cut other taxes by £11 billion. Applying standard VAT rates to all items, including food. Remember what we said about VAT? Including food and children's clothing, would raise enough revenue to increase benefits for poorer families and cut taxes by £11 billion, according to a think tank. That'll be in your papers tomorrow. Dennis in Urmston. Hiya, Dennis.
Hello, good afternoon, Alan.
Good afternoon to you as well.
I'll be very quick because all I want to tell you is why I'm not in the least religious.
OK.
When I was a child, which is many years ago, I was born and bred in the Catholic area in Chadderton. And in our street was a family, a lady, her husband and a child, who were very poor. He was a miner who was bedridden, and they were Catholics. And every Sunday morning, I'll rephrase that. In our house, we had what we called Mrs., for want of a better word, Smith's half-crown. This was an half-crown that my mum used to lend this lady every week to help her to make ends meet. And when she got a pay, whatever it was from the government, she would come in and give it my mother back. And it was on the sideboard. And that was Mrs. Smith's half-crown. On a Sunday, the priest used to come round to the house because nobody could go to church because the chap was bedridden. And he would come. And one day I was playing with the little girl in the house and he came in and Mrs. Smith gave him sixpence. And when he'd gone, I went home to my mother and asked why she had to give this man sixpence. And my mother said, because that's for the church. And she has to give him some money. And I said, well, surely he should be giving the money to her, not taking it away from her. it incensed me to a point of when I eventually went to senior school, I caused quite a problem in the RE lessons because I didn't believe in God. And all I've got to say, if the Christian or Catholic society is willing to go around and take money off people that were destitute, this man actually died penniless. And they took the money off them. Now, who are the Christians? My mother who lent her the £half every week, or the Catholics that came round and took a tanner out of that money on that proviso that this were given to the church. Could you tell me? Because this has been on my mind all my life.
Well, I'm afraid...
60 odd now.
Well, I'm afraid I can't really help you to work your way through it because it isn't straightforward. For example, if you say, well, the church should only ever take from the rich and give to the poor, that rather gets in the way of giving the poor the opportunity to give. And I know you might think, well, the poor don't want the opportunity to give, but I was brought up, my family weren't rich. I mean, I say this a lot. We weren't poor because we were the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
We lived in a council house, I had a cracking childhood and all the rest of it, but we weren't rich. And if ever my mum never had enough money to, you know, we all got fed well and all of that, but there was nothing to waste. There was no money to waste. But if ever she saw nuns, she always went over and put money in their hand, be it a £half, a 2 bob, or on the bad weeks a tanner. But she always gave them money. Now, should she be doing that? Was that an unchristian thing to do? Well, no. Should she been denied should the nuns have turned round and said, no, don't give me that, you're poor? You're actually impairing their freedom. A long, long time ago, when I first came into this business, I went with a colleague who was quite famous, and no one had heard of me. And I went with a colleague who was quite famous to open a garden fete just to see how he did it, because I was going to have to do one a couple of weeks later. And a little lad had just won a bottle of rubbish shampoo on the raffle. You know when there's what's it called, the tombola thing? You know where they have a load of corks with numbers on. And he just won a bottle of rubbish shampoo, and my mate had left at this point. And the lad came up to me, and he gave me this bottle of shampoo, and he said, will you give it to Dave? This was the famous guy. Will you give it to Dave? And I said, well, I'll tell him that you wanted to give it to him, but quite honestly, you know, you have it. Give it to your mum. You've won it. And I thought I was doing the decent thing. And when I got in the next week, I saw Dave, and I told him this incident, and he said, you should have took it. I said, what do you mean I should have took it? A, you wouldn't have used it. You're funny about your hair. You'd have thrown it straight in the bin, or you'd have given it to somebody else. He said, it's nothing to do with the shampoo. It's to do with that little lad wanting to give me a gift, that the gift itself is valueless, but the giving is quite precious to him. Now, should the church deny the opportunity to give to people just because it's a bigger sacrifice for them to give than it is for the rich?
Yeah, but in this particular case, Alan, they were coming round for the gift. They weren't being given the money, they were actually demanding the money.
Well, demand's a strong word.
Well, it may well be. But nevertheless, it was them that were going to the door to get the money, not the lady going to the door to give the money.
Well, no, but again, it's still a gift. I don't suppose they took guns with them. It's still a gift. It's still a gift. And why? Why should the poor why should the poor be denied the opportunity to give? I don't think they should. I don't think they should.
Well, that's a good answer.
It's the best I've got. And I don't know where that leaves us with your view in religion or not, but I'm asking you to...
Any different.
Well, absolutely. And what I would never want anyone to do is to make their judgment about a faith or not on the basis of the purveyors of that faith.
Yeah.
Because there's some pretty rubbish purveyors of faith about, and there's some pretty damn good uns too, but there's also some pretty good uns who don't believe in any of it.
That's
so
very
so that's the most important one. All right, mate.
Okay.
Have a good one, Dennis.
Thanks, Alan.
Now,
And you.
Now, this is a horrible moment for me, an absolutely horrible moment, and it's all Malcolm's fault. And I blame him without fear of contradiction. He sent me a copy of the bloody advert, and it is for Malibu, which, as we all know, is coconut-flavoured wee. So I'm glad I've never tried it. Bloody hell. I was sure it was for lilt, which isn't bad. It's like the taste... You think it tastes of fruit. No fruit you've ever tasted, but it tastes of fruit and it's got bubbles in. I'll be back tomorrow sulking. Ta-da now.
Comedian John Cooper's in tonight to let you know who's had a good day.